In Japanese manga games, anime, movies, folktales, and all kinds of stories, foxes and Tanuki raccoon dogs make appearances. In Studio Ghibli's animated film Poko, the story unfolds through the worldview of foxes and Tanuki in Japanese culture. In Super Mario Bros. 3, when Mario picks up a leaf, he transforms into a Tanuki, and furthermore can transform into a stone statue. For us foreigners who don't share these cultural premises, many of these depictions might not fully resonate, but today I'll explain foxes and Tanuki from the perspective of Japanese culture. Keep watching to gain a deeper understanding of the Japanese manga games and movies you love. If you know this before traveling, you won't just pass by these cultural elements without noticing them. Both foxes and Tanuki are said to be able to change their appearance and transform into all kinds of things, sometimes surprising people. Foxes sometimes transform into humans to confuse them, transform into terrifying monsters, or possess people, making them objects of reverence and fear. On the other hand, when Tanuki transform into humans, their tails often remain visible. When they transform into monsters, they're easily discovered, or when they transform into tools, they end up like this. Tanuki are somehow inadequate.
Aw, man.
I'll explain more of this later. In the case of foxes, when hunters track fox footprints in the snow, the footprints sometimes suddenly disappear. Even if they look 3 meters ahead from the last footprint, thinking the fox might have jumped, there's no sign of the fox. People of the time thought that foxes, noticing they were being pursued, would transform into trees, stones, branches, or something else to hide themselves. However, this is actually a fox's habit of stepping back along the same footprints and changing direction to avoid being tracked by enemies. On the other hand, Tanuki would play dead, even when merely startled by a hunter's arrow that didn't hit them. When the hunter briefly looked away, thinking the Tanuki was dead, the Tanuki would suddenly disappear, which may have led people to believe they could transform into various objects like foxes. However, Tanuki would resume activity after some time, so when the hunter looked back at the Tanuki at that moment, they would likely witness the Tanuki's round, comical backside as it desperately ran away. The Tanuki's appearance is extremely contrary to the fox, which can completely conceal its whereabouts without leaving a trace. In stories, inexperienced foxes and Tanuki are depicted placing leaves on their heads when transforming. This is their way of maintaining concentration, and it's said that experienced ones can transform without relying on leaves, and can maintain their transformation for longer periods. Now you understand why in Super Mario Bros. 3, picking up a leaf transforms Mario into a Tanuki, and he can further transform into a stone statue. Let's look at this in more detail.
For Japanese people, foxes aren't just animals. While possessing a mysterious quality that can bewitch people, they are also revered beings that serve the gods. Especially at Inari shrines, they are seen as messengers of the god of harvest, and fox statues are often seen standing dignified near the torii gates. In fact, there are about 30,000 Inari shrines across Japan, said to make up 30% of all shrines in Japan. For people praying for agriculture, business prosperity, and family safety, foxes are familiar and reliable beings. There's a reason why foxes are considered divine familiars or gods themselves. When rice cultivation was introduced and established in Japan, people were troubled by pests like mice that ravaged grains, but they discovered that foxes were beneficial animals that preyed on mice in the fields. People set up feeding spots for foxes near fields and offered food to encourage them to stay in the area. That food was abura age, fried tofu, which is why abura age itself is sometimes called kitsune, fox, or inari. Those feeding spots later became shrines and objects of worship as gods of good harvest or divine familiars. The head shrine of Inari shrines is Fushimi Inari Taisha in Kyoto, familiar to tourists, and in Tokyo there are shrines dedicated to foxes everywhere, including Oji Inari Shrine, which represents eastern Japan. This is Toyokawa Inari. The strongest-looking fox in Tokyo guards the main hall. This is Anamori Inari. The 1,000 torii gates continue like a path to another world, creating a fantastic atmosphere. Speaking of 1,000 torii gates, Fushimi Inari Taisha in Kyoto has become a major tourist attraction, now crowded with people from entrance to exit, but there are actually several thousand torii gates in Tokyo and its vicinity. Although shorter compared to Fushimi Inari Taisha, Tokyo's 1,000 torii gates are somehow not well known, so you can view them in a more relaxed manner. If your purpose for going to Kyoto is to see the 1,000 torii gates, in my opinion, there's no need to go to Kyoto. I'll eventually create a video introducing the lesser-known 1,000 torii gates in Tokyo and its vicinity, so if you're interested, please like and subscribe. Oji Inari Shrine has a tradition that on New Year's Eve, foxes from all over the Kanto region gather in a procession, and every year on that day, a festival mimicking this scene is held. Abura Age Inari is offered in front of the hall. There are countless foxes inside the shrine. Wishes are written on the foxes' stomachs. It is clear that foxes are beings that convey people's wishes to the gods. If you have a wish, you lift this stone, and if it feels lighter than you imagined before lifting it, your wish will come true. If it feels heavier, you still need to make more effort. Climbing the stairs in the back, there's a hole called the fox den. This shrine area used to be on the hillside of a mountain covered with trees, where many foxes lived. This is it. Did they also live in this hole? Just by visiting shrines in Tokyo, you can understand how revered foxes are. On the other hand, as mentioned earlier, in folktales there's an expression, being bewitched by a fox, indicating that foxes were believed to transform into humans, change their appearance to appear in the human world, and sometimes bring calamity. In Japan, fox possession was believed to be a curse. Angry foxes were believed to possess parishioners who didn't take good care of Inari shrines, causing suffering to people. When possessed by a fox, people would become restless, move around busily, and make strange noises. These behaviors were just like those of a fox, so people believed they were possessed by foxes, but they were what we now call mental disorders. The conclusion that fox possession was a mental disorder came after the end of the Pacific War, showing that this belief persisted until quite recently. Before being diagnosed as a mental disorder, people possessed by foxes were exorcised by shrine priests or by mountain ascetics who would scrape the skull of a wolf, the natural enemy of foxes, brew it, and have the possessed person drink it. The fact that foxes are objects of both worship and fear is a major difference from Tanuki. On the other hand, Tanuki are more commonplace. While they are objects of worship in some regions, they are not at all objects of fear. With their somewhat dazed faces, big bellies, giant testicles, and ceramic statues holding sake bottles or account books, they are familiar sights in front of shops and izakayas. You can see them everywhere when walking through town. These are known nationwide as Shigaraki Tanuki and are considered good luck charms for business prosperity. This is because Tanuki is pronounced Tanuki in Japanese, but ta can mean others, and nuki can mean surpass, so it includes the meaning of surpassing other competitors. Unlike fox worship, they don't receive respectful treatment and are placed at shop entrances with a, well, it's probably better to have them than not level of consciousness, and naturally, there are no offerings. As mentioned earlier, like foxes, Tanuki also appear in folktales as masters of transformation, but unlike foxes, they are almost always discovered in the end. The certain part of the male Tanuki is incredibly versatile. For duck hunting, for sudden rain, for fish farming, for surprising friends, for hitting catfish, for cold winter days, for shop signs, for powerlifting, for ferry boats, for house moving and donation, for secret donations from politicians, for harassing, for festival drums. As mentioned at the beginning, there are shrines dedicated to Tanuki, though they are not common. Particularly in Tokushima Prefecture, there are many legends about Tanuki, and there are splendid shrines, but these are extremely rare examples nationwide. Usually, smart fox statues are enshrined in front of shrines, but at Tanuki shrines, it's like this. As for Tanuki shrines, to my knowledge, there is one in Tokyo.
What? What?
I hope you can understand the difference in treatment from foxes from a worship perspective. It's said that during the Edo period, craftsmen used Tanuki skin when making gold leaf, so the scrotum began to be depicted as gigantic because of it being stretchy and durable. Since then, the Tanuki's scrotum, money bag, or golden balls, has been considered a good luck charm for financial success and business prosperity. There are expressions like 8 tatami mat testicles, meaning expanding endlessly or expanding luck. However, this too is not a solemn belief, but remains in a more casual position as a good luck symbol. Foxes are flawless in everything and perfectly execute things, but Tanuki are somewhat lacking. As explained earlier, both foxes and Tanuki who are skilled can transform for long periods without relying on leaves. However, optimistic Tanuki often overestimate their abilities and try to blend into town by transforming into human form without placing leaves on their heads, failing and revealing their true forms to humans. This is Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, which boasts the highest number of passengers in Japan during the evening rush hour. What appeared there was a Tanuki who overestimated itself and tried to transform into a human. It probably intended to transform into a company employee rushing home, but it has reverted to its Tanuki form. It seems this one still needs more training. If foxes are symbols of mystery and fear, Tanuki are symbols of commonality. Foxes and Tanuki in Japanese culture are like Japan itself, where mysterious traditional culture and secular modern cities coexist.
Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you like it and subscribe, it will be a great encouragement.
Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.